everyone. We are going to be following three agendas actually this evening. The first agenda is going to be our special meeting of council that will be dealing with a public meeting under the Planning and Development, or the Planning Act, under Planning and Development Services here in the city of Port Colborne, and dealing with the Department of Planning and Development Services report number 2012-67, which the subject is the city of Port Colborne's official plan, which is shown here in draft form, hopefully temporarily. Dan, get this thing back up to us hopefully around October. September. Beautiful, beautiful. That'll be followed by our committee of the whole agenda, folks, and then that will be followed by our council meeting that will, we expect to ratify most of the agenda items that are going to be contemplated and debated this evening. So with that, I'm going to call upon Councillor Angie Desmarais to give us the prayer, and that will be followed by Mr. Joe Longfellow, the national anthem. Councillor Desmarais.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, source of all truth and wisdom, who knows and loves the whole creation, watch over our community, that truth may prevail over distortion, wisdom triumph over recklessness, and the concerns of every person be heard. Amen.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel. Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My pleasure.
Members of council, is there any, well, first of all, can I get a motion to confirm the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Butters, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? With none, and before I go on to the planning meeting, Councillor Butters, you had something that you wanted to bring up?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if we could have a leave of council to bring Joanne Ferriccioli and her presentation up first, please. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor Desmarais. Any questions or comments to that motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. For those in the gallery, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bumping up Ms. Ferriccioli, who is the city's health services coordinator. She's here to introduce Dr. Jeff Remington. We understand Dr. Remington has to get back to the ER, as well as some of our students, our medical students. Joanne's going to introduce them to us, and that will be followed by recognition of another doctor, Dr. Rivers, with respect to his completion of the Ironman Triathlon in Lake Placid, New York. So with that, Ms. Ferriccioli, come on up. Dr. Remington, come on up. And the floor is yours. Welcome, Joanne.
Thank you, Mayor Badaway, members of council, and staff, and all of our wonderful citizens here. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce Dr. Remington, who I'm sure you all know. And Dr. Remington and Dr. Rivers are both very active preceptors in our community, and they want to express their extreme gratitude and for all that this council and community does for our medical teaching. Normally this time of year we're not very busy. Usually we have Rural Medicine Week and we have a little bit of a break. Not so this year. We've been extremely busy with a number of students, not just medical students. We've had physician assistant students and lots of medical students, so it's a very active learning time. I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Remington because he will introduce both of the students here that we're very fortunate to have. They're both wonderful students, and fortunately Dr. Rivers couldn't be with us tonight, but I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Thank you, Joanne. Dr. Remington, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Hello again. Appreciate the indulgence of the gallery and staff and council tonight in letting us go at the beginning of the agenda. Tonight, I'm pleased to echo Joanne's comments and thank the city for their ongoing and almost everlasting support of medical education in this community. Again, as Joanne said, we have been a hub of activity of medical education this summer. And in fact, when these two folks are done, we have at least 4 or 5 more still to come. So if you think you've seen the end of me, you may not have. But it's an awesome program. We're in demand. All the medical schools know that Port Colborne is a great place to send students to learn. And we're flattered that the students actually choose to come to our great community to learn with us. I'd like to introduce both of the students to my right tonight. Next to Joanne is Charlene Antony. Charlene is a clinical clerk or a senior medical student from McMaster University's Medical School, the DeGroote School of Medicine. She is originally from the GTA area. She is studying under Dr. Rivers for 4 weeks, 5 weeks? 6 weeks. 6 weeks. So she's about midway in her rotation. And then behind me is Alexander Melanishin. Alex is, again, also a clinical clerk or a senior medical student from Queen's University. And his hometown is Fonthill, Ontario, Pelham. That's one of the reasons he decided to spend some time at home this summer and learn with the best. So I'm very thankful to have both of them at Mapleview. It certainly livens up the environment, and I don't know whether it makes us all feel old or makes us feel young again, but we're pleased that they've come to learn with us, and we're pleased that the city has given us this time tonight to acknowledge them both to council, but also publicly over COGECO as well. Thank you so much. Mr. Mayor, with your indulgence, they'd like to actually say just a quick few comments.
Absolutely.
Sure thing. So I just wanted to thank you all for having me here. And Port Colborne is a pretty vibrant community. I had a chance to meet some colorful characters in the urgent care and at the clinic. And I've had a great time with Dr. Remington. He's been a great mentor. So I'm very thankful for all of you hosting me here. So thank you very much.
Back on.
Hello, everyone. I just want to thank you again for also allowing me to be here. I've received a lot of wonderful hospitality, including from my preceptor, Dr. Rivers, who's been a wonderful teacher, but also I want to thank Canal Side, who's actually allowed me to house there. I've also tried a lot of great cuisine, including the crab cakes at Canal Side, which you have to try if you haven't. But I just want to thank you for everything, and
That's great.
Did you want me to speak? Yeah. Thank you. Again, next on the agenda is council and the community's recognition of Dr. Derek Rivers tonight. Unfortunately, Derek sends his regrets. He does have other professional commitments. Otherwise, he'd be here. Tonight, we're recognizing Derek for training and completing the Lake Placid Ironman Triathlon back in July. For those of you who don't know what a triathlon is, it's a combination of swimming, cycling, and running. The exact distances, he's probably going to skewer me if I don't get it right. It's a 2.4 mile open water swim, a 180 kilometer-ish bicycle ride, and a full 26.2 mile marathon. I was fortunate enough, Derek invited me to come with him, both as his friend, but also I was a volunteer in the medical team tent. It's no small feat of human endurance. Derek has been training for approximately 2 years. If you've probably seen him cycling in the back roads of Niagara or running around town or swimming both at Centennial Pool and in the recreational waterway. And I'm very proud of my friend for completing it in 12 hours and 55 minutes, which is a fantastic feat. It was an extremely hot day. 2,600 people started, less than 2,100 people finished. We treated over 450 people in the medical tent. Derek was not one of them. But it's a great feat. All the more special is the fact that he chose the Port Colborne Hospital Foundation to fundraise, so that his feat of athletic endurance was also a fundraiser for our community hospital. And as I think most of you know, I mean, Derek was born in Port Colborne Hospital, raised in Port Colborne, came back to practice. I think it's a great testament to to his character, that not only did he do this for himself, but he also decided to make a gesture back towards the hospital that helped recruit him and has given him such a great career here in Port Colborne. I don't know the final total, but I know it's well over $8,000 to $9,000 that he raised, and I think there are still donations coming in. So very proud of my buddy. The picture that you see on the screen, I was actually, the medical tent was right at the finish line, so I was able to run out and get to see him just as he crossed the finish line and take this picture. I know what you're all thinking. All that, 12 hours and 55 minutes, he looks like he hasn't even broken a sweat. But he did fantastic, and I'm really proud of him, and I think the community should be proud of him too. So here's to Dr. Rivers.
Well, that's wonderful, Jeff, and I'll tell you, not only is the medical community and his colleagues very proud of his accomplishments, but also on behalf of the entire community, I can say and members of council, of course, I can say with a great deal of confidence that we are as well very proud, as well as appreciative for what he has done. It is unfortunate that Derek couldn't be with us tonight. He's apparently working, but nevertheless, we wanted to take this opportunity to express our appreciation, and the very least we can do is present him with a plaque, and I'm happy Jeff's going to do that on his behalf because of the accomplishments that he's brought to the city of Port Colborne. And the plaque reads this. You were 2 out of 3, by the way, in terms of what the distances were. So you did well. You did well. You passed.
That's 70.3 times 2.
So I do have a plaque here to Derek, and again, it's the least we can do to show our appreciation. It is presented to Dr. Derek Rivers in recognition of your outstanding accomplishment of completing the Ironman Triathlon in Lake Placid, New York, and in recognition of your donation raised by your 3.8-kilometer swim, the 180-kilometer cycling, and 42.2-kilometer run to the Port Colborne General Hospital Foundation. On behalf of members of City Council and all the citizens of the City of Port Colborne, thank you for your continued community leadership and commitment to community health care, signed by myself and on behalf of you, the citizens of Port Colborne, as well as members of Council. You can pass it on to Derek.
Derek would also like to issue a challenge if anybody would like to join him next year in the 2 triathlons that he's planning on competing in. He'd be more than happy to have the cycling, swimming, and running partner.
Do they have like riding, driving, or maybe on a tailgate or something
Awesome.
like that?
I just volunteer for the medical tent. It gets me safe.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you tonight.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. And good luck to you too. Great to have you out. We are now going to move on to the public hearing under the Planning Act. We do have a public meeting, as I mentioned earlier, the City of Port Colborne Official Plan, presented in its draft form, Department of Planning and Development Services, report number 2012-67, and once again, subject is a public meeting, City of Port Colborne Official Plan. Mr. Aquilina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to you, members of council, staff, and those in attendance this evening. This meeting is being held pursuant to Section 17 of the Planning Act as to consider the city's new official plan. Members of council should be aware that this is a significant milestone in the city's planning program. As council is aware, the Planning Act prescribes the official plan, and that is a long-range policy document that identifies where and how the city is to grow within the next 25 years up to 2031. Notice of this meeting tonight was given in accordance with Section 17 of the Planning Act and Section 3 of Ontario Regulation 543/06. Notice was advertised in the Niagara this week and the Import News on August the 2nd, and again in the Welland Tribune on August the 7th. Notice was also placed on the City of Port Colborne's website. Explanation to be followed this evening, Mr. Mayor, as I will present Planning and Development Report 2012-67. We will then open the floor up if those members of council have any questions or clarification to myself. We will then open the floor up for any member of the public that wishes to address council. I will give the announcement respecting notice of adoption under the Planning Act and an announcement respecting future meetings with regards to the proposed official plan. This time, Mr. Mayor, I would like to present the Planning and Development Department's new official plan for the city of Port Colborne. Just a bit of background for council's information and those members of the public. In 2006, our consulting firm actually brought forward a new official plan for the city of Port Colborne. That process began in 2002. Unfortunately, that plan required many changes to conform to both the provincial plan and the regional policy plan, and to actually identify other policies that would enhance the city's ability to grow and prosper into the future. I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation, but before I go into that, it's important to stress and emphasize the vision that this plan tries to achieve. And I will summarize, and these are actually under section 2 of the policy plan, and it's under the vision statement. I will just briefly point out the different paragraphs that achieves the vision for the city of Port Colborne within this plan. They are as follows: continue to maintain and improve the overall quality of community life, provide the opportunity for a mix of residential accommodations, continue to support the agricultural land base, create a community development plan and pattern that fosters a vigorous and diverse local economy by supporting the existing business community while promoting new business opportunities. Provide policies which support a high-quality living environment. Preserve, promote, and foster awareness of the diverse cultural and natural heritage features within the city. Ensure the continued success in retaining and expanding community services and facilities. Support Port Colborne's role as a transportation hub. Ensure communities and neighborhoods are properly connected to each other. Incorporate urban design elements to achieve attractive and distinct neighborhoods within the community. Develop and implement community improvement plans. Ensure new development is accessible by all members of the community. Support renewable energy initiatives. Support regional market area initiatives. Maintain and, where possible, improve public access to the Lake Erie shoreline. And finally, develop the community in a way which optimizes existing municipal and regional infrastructure. Members of council, we had circulated a draft official plan to your attention, and we also posted it on the City of Port Colborne's website. It is a very lengthy document. I'm not going to go page by page, paragraph by paragraph, policy by policy. So what we've done in the division is actually kind of made a brief compilation of what that plan entails. And it's important to go over the sections of the plan so council understands and the community understands what we are trying to achieve. Section 1 is the introduction to the City of Port Colborne. Provides an introduction of who we are, brief history, and where we like to be in the future. Our vision, Section 2, and I briefly went over the policies in that section. Section 3 is the city land use policies, and I will provide council with a brief summary of the schedule that accompanies the plan. That's where you get into areas that are designated employment, areas that are commercial, residential, parkland, et cetera, and it contains the policies in regards to those different designations. Section 4 is the natural heritage. Those are all the flora and fauna areas of the city that require protection, both from the Conservation Authorities Act as well as the provincial policy statement. Section 5 is Section 5 provides the approved secondary plans that council actually has adopted, being Shirkston Shores, Westwood Park, and the East Waterfront. Section 6, which council is very familiar of, is our community improvement policies, which go over the financial incentives, what we are trying to achieve in the different areas of the city where we are trying to redevelop and revitalize. Section 7 is our cultural heritage. Section 8 is servicing and stormwater management. That section of the plan we work hand in hand with our engineering and operations department. Again, with the transportation and public utilities as well. You will see a schedule that actually identifies the different road network of the city, both what is provincially, regionally, and municipally maintained, and what classifications those roads are. Section 10 is our mineral and aggregate and petroleum resources policy. Again, these need to ensure that they are in conformance with the provincial policy statement. And Section 11 is implementation. This then provides policies on a development basis that go over site plan control, zoning provisions, holding provisions, interim control, et cetera, et cetera. And Section 12 provides definitions that we need to rely on to refer to see what types of development and policies we need to review to ensure that they do apply to those sections of the plan and in accordance with what and how they are defined. Schedule A is our land use schedule. Unfortunately, I don't believe we can zoom in, but not too bad. You will see there we have identified different areas of the city that are both provincially recognized as being agriculturally significant. A lot of those lands are located north of Highway 3 and some south of Highway 3 as well. We have our hamlet boundaries of Bethel, Shirkston, and Gasline. We have identified lands that are both rural employment lands as recently approved by Regional Council. We've identified other lands as being industrial employment. You will see there are many lands along the canal that are designated as such. One point I would like to make is that when we first advertised and displayed our official plan, there was one designation that we inadvertently categorized as park. And that was the land that we have our elevators, ADM, and are locally owned, and the lands to the north, as well as lands that are Transport Canada that abut the canal on the west side. And Mr. Heil, I believe, is in around the area. And what those do, they all recognize that the port designation that the Gateway Plan prepared and we have implemented. You will see the anchor at the mouth of the canal. Other policies you will see there, the rural area that is north of the Lake Erie shoreline and out in the rural area of the city that are not agriculturally recognized, and they are areas of the city that we have rural residential development, and we have recognized those as well. You will see on the west side of the city's boundary, council will recall there was direction to have the lands west of Minor Road recognized as rural. So we have done that, and you will see all the environmental areas, both protection-wise and conservation, that we have identified as well. And of course you see the corridor along Main Street and the downtown and other pockets that we have identified as commercial. The other designation that council is quite aware of is the Economic Gateway Zone, just immediately south of our rural employment lands, and we have recognized those as well. Schedule A1 is our greenfields map. That's in accordance with the places to grow that identifies what intensification targets we need to achieve that are outside our built boundary, and they are highlighted by the green. We need to achieve a density target, and those are identified in the policies of the plan. And you'll see the hatch there that represents the intensification area because of the built form in those areas and because they are readily serviced. We have identified the community improvement plan areas of both Main Street and the downtown as an intensification area. We would like to promote people to be there to help the commercial establishments in those areas. We have identified the hamlet of Bethel, and what we did this time around is we've actually identified them on a property line basis. In the previous official plan, I would consider these schedules of those areas as blobs. And what that meant, it was hard to interpret where those boundaries of the hamlets were. What we've done is this time around, we've identified each property so there's no dispute as to whether or not the property is within a hamlet or it's not. We've done that for the hamlet of Bethel, the hamlet of Gasline, and the hamlet of Shirkston. The next schedule, as I mentioned, is natural heritage features. Those are recognized by the provincial agencies. It identifies wetlands, floodplains, woodlots, significant woodlots, et cetera, et cetera. Again, more detailed of what those actual designations are. And again, conservation areas. And our mineral, aggregate, and petroleum resources. It identifies areas of the city that are primed for potential mineral extraction. And we've recognized the existing Port Colborne quarries on that schedule as well. Schedule D, as I mentioned earlier, is a transportation framework that identifies all the provincial, regional, collector, local, and arterial roads within the city of Port Colborne. We've identified the Highway 3 diversion just because we have to. Hopefully in the very near future, we will not have to have any regard for that. This is the Sherkston Shores Secondary Plan, which was approved by council many years ago. We've included that in this plan as well. Our East Waterfront Secondary Plan. And the next plan that we don't see on here, but we will include, is the Westwood Park Secondary Plan for the Westwood Estates development. As indicated in the report, we did hold 2 open houses as part of this process. We held one within the city chambers, and we also held one within Market Square. Did something different, just to get more input from the community, and it worked out well. We had a lot of people attend or walk up to what our presentations. We had 60 people that discussed the official plan. Can't confirm all 60 were actually talking the official plan. I've heard they were talking about other issues within the city, but nonetheless, 60 people did stop and talk. This time, Mr. Mayor, I would like to go over some of the comments that were received. The Conservation Authority did comment that some of the, as you see, some of the schedules are identifying environmental areas. They would like to actually refine a few areas, nothing that requires major consultation or advertisement, again, of those changes, just refinement of areas that need to comply and conform with their Conservation Authorities Act. And we will work with the NPCA to identify those changes. We did receive comments from Stephanie and Arnie Thiessen. They were recommending or discussing the possibility of expanding the hamlet of Gasline to include their property. All of the comments that were received, I'm not going to go over them verbatim. They will form part of the planning report when we bring it forward for adoption. But they're looking to expand, as I mentioned, the hamlet boundary bisects their property. They're looking to increase the hamlet boundary to include all of their property. Other comments that were received were from Roseanne Shields. She had 3 pages of comments. I'm not going to cite all of her comments, but I will emphasize that she is looking to have her lands designated as agricultural instead of the current rural designation, environmental designation, and gateway center designations that bisect her property. She's located on the south side of 2nd Concession, east of the city's rail line. And I believe Roseanne is here this evening. I'm not sure if she's going to speak to council this evening. However, all of her comments will form, again, part of the planning's report, and we will address her comments, like all the other comments we do receive. We did receive 11 pages of comments from Healthy Living Niagara. Again, I'm not going to go over those comments, but they were looking at general policies related to physical activity, injury prevention, mental health, social cohesion, nutrition, and food security. Again, members of council, we will look and address each comment received, and they will be brought forward with our recommendation report for council's consideration. Mr. Mr. Mayor, I just want to briefly summarize what's changed from the 2006 plan. Those council members that were present in 2006 may recall some things that were brought forward, but they did not comply or conform with provincial policy. And that was the land south of Highway 3, east of Kalali Street. There was direction at that time to have those lands identified as rural. Did not conform to the regional policy plan, nor did it conform to the provincial policy plan. We've changed those lands to agricultural. Council did receive a report from the Planning Division back in 2007 that did provide direction to do that. Other change that was made was the environmental policies. There was direction from Council in 2007 to follow what the region had approved under Amendment 187. The other change that Council will recall is they wanted to have a 1.5 kilometer buffer around the Port Colborne quarry to prohibit any new quarries or any expansion thereof. Again, does not conform to provincial policy or regional policy. We've had to remove that. If Council does not do that, there is no chance that the region will adopt or approve, will approve the official plan. We have eliminated that policy. Mr. Mayor, those are the major changes that have occurred from the 2006 to the 2012 plan. As I mentioned, we have actually put in a lot more policies that provide the city flexibility, however, ensure conformity with both regional policy and provincial policy to enable the city to achieve its vision. Mr. Mayor, I will end at that, but we will move on, if I may, to the next component of the public meeting, and that is members of council have any questions or clarification to myself.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Members of council, any questions or comments? With none, Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, before we open up the public meeting to those members of the public, I would like to read the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed official plan is adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Port Colborne to the Ontario Municipal Board or, for that matter, to the Region of Niagara. Further, it should be noted that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Port Colborne before the proposed official plan is adopted, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OMB unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Mr. Mayor, I would like to call upon if any member of the public wishes to address council.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Are there any members of the public that would like to address council on this report? Yes, sir. If you want to come on up, state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilors, my name is George McKibben. That's M-C-K-I-B-B-O-N. I'm a planning consultant with ADM Milling, located at 1 King Street in Port Colborne. With me today are two members of ADM, Robert Cash, who's the Manager of Environmental Compliance in Canada for ADM, and Bob Dussault, who's the Commercial Manager from the plant in Port. I recall that when Dan made his presentation to you, he mentioned that the ADM property in Port had been designated as parks and open space, as well as the industrial lands in its immediate vicinity. And that, of course, caused us some concern because in the long term, that sort of designation isn't compatible with the continued operation and improvement of the plant as we go forward. In speaking with Dan, I understand that, and listening to the presentation today, I understand that that has been corrected. I understand it was an inadvertent mapping error to begin with, and that the property will be designated industrial and employment area, which is the designation that ADM Milling seeks. And I'm happy to say that my client is very happy with that result. and we'll confirm that in writing tomorrow. Subject to confirming, you know, when I look at the overhead, it's a little hard to see everything. I'd like to see a map that shows me that specifically. And there were a couple of other questions that we had about some of the mapping, but I'm sure that we'll be able to sort that out tomorrow and reply to you in writing by the end of the day. Thank you for the opportunity on behalf of ADM Milling to make this presentation to you, and I'm pleased this worked out well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKibben. Just a quick question on that, Dan. Is the, I believe these properties they fall under the gateway designation as well?
Mr. Mayor, no, they don't. They're industrial employment. Those lands are, the gateway lands that are on the east side of the canal within our urban service boundary, north of Second Concession and south of Second Concession. They are the yellow mustard looking color that you see there.
Okay, so on those lands where ADM currently is,
Yes.
will there be any opportunity to add any incentive to any work that they might consider in the future?
Mr. Mayor, those lands are identified as a major port under the Places to Grow plan. We actually have some policies within the plan, but we need to look towards the region and the province to actually put some more meat on the bone as to what that means. What financial incentives or monies will be available. Those lands are actually identified within our industrial community improvement plan, so there are incentives available currently as we speak.
Okay, so if we can further that within the report that you have come to the council, that way when we do pass on the information to Mr. McKibben and ADM, if in fact, and we hope, there are any expansion thoughts or any updates that you have to do to the plant, that in fact you can take advantage of some of the industrial incentives that we have or we're going to be putting in place. So if we can have that, Dan, as part of the report and add that information on to what Mr. McKibben, what I would only assume would like to have on file. Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. McKibben, and thank you guys for showing up this evening. Appreciate your time. Are there any other further comments or questions from members of the gallery, public? And I thought this is what you guys were all here for. Yes, sir, come on up. If you want to just come on up, sir. If you want to come on up and state your name. Welcome. Watch your head there.
My name is Arnie Thiessen. My wife Stephanie and I live on Pinecrest Road, and we wrote the letter in about the adjustment of the Hamlet development boundary. After the Hamlet development portion originally was only at the very north end of our property, and now it goes obliquely across the middle of the property down to the southeast corner. When Kalali was adjusted, when they took the end of Kalali from Highway 3 and bent it north so that it would make a 90-degree access to Highway 3, it removed access to that Hamlet development portion at the north of our boundary, our property. And the way it goes now from the corner of the house on Pinecrest and Kalali and obliquely across the property, there is no access to any of that Hamlet development property. And our suggestion was in our written presentation that our entire property then be included. Dan was saying they would try to go by property lines for the Hamlet areas. This is the one case where that doesn't happen, and we'd like to see that take place.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thiessen. And Dan, that will be identified within the report?
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you once again, Mr. Thiessen. Roseanne, if you want to come on up. As always, welcome.
I'll try to summarize my 3 pages, just due to time. When looking at the maps and my property, I've got on a little overhead acetate. The different things have done is it's designated in the citywide land use, as urban residential, okay? And then part of it is also gateway economic. Then on another Schedule A1, it's designated greenfields. Then on Schedule B, it's natural heritage. Then you go to Schedule B2, and it's environmental conservation and environmental corridors and linkages. And not being well-versed in planning and that type of thing, it seemed that a designation of agricultural would fit in with more of the, like the environmental corridors, the linkages, the protected areas. And I do bring up that since 1817, that land has been farmed. It has been agricultural. I did thank, in the letter, thank you for removing the industrial that was north of my barn, right along the concession. That designation is now removed, and I'm very glad of that. But I would like to see it go back to agricultural. I think up until 1978, 1980, it was deemed agricultural, and then it was changed. And I don't know who or why, but I would like to see it go back, since there are other areas in town that in the map that showed large areas for urban residential areas, just to the east and a wee bit north of me as well. And just to across the road and up, which is just kitty corner from the quarry, is deemed agricultural right now. So I was just, that is my request. If that would be possible, I would truly appreciate it, and then it could continue to be farmed. And I did bring up that the land was granted to a Caspar Ramey in 1817 by King George. His son David worked the land after that. His son Abraham built the house that I live in. And the parcel of land that is mine right now is the only remaining parcel of that original grant. And therefore I would appreciate the agricultural. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Shields.
That's mine, that's mine.
Yeah. Are there any more public comments or questions? With none?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I
Aquino.
would like to announce passage of the adopted official plan. Before I do, there is a sign-in sheet at the back of the room if you want to ensure that you do receive notice of council's adoption. If council does choose to adopt, you will receive a copy of the bylaw. If you wish to be notified of the adoption of the proposed official plan, you must make a written request to the clerk. Only those persons and public bodies that give the clerk a written request for the adoption bylaw will be given such notice. The explanation of future meetings, Mr. Mayor, is we will present a planning report recommending the new official plan for the City of Port Colborne that addresses all agency comments and public comments. We would like to have that for council's consideration on September the 10th. It's important to note that if council does adopt the plan, council is not the approval authority. The region of Niagara is, and we've been working in concert with the region, and they do intend to bring this forward ASAP, I'm told, in October. So with all due consideration to the whole official plan and the years that staff have been at this, both current and former staff, it is hopeful that the City of Port Colborne will have a new official plan by October. Mr. Mayor, this does conclude the meeting under the Planning Act, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. If I could have a motion to adjourn this portion of tonight's agenda. Councillor Butters, Councillor Elliott. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Once again, Dan, thanks. Well done. We're now going to move on to the Committee of the Whole portion of our agenda. First off, members of council, I will entertain a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Actually, I should go to Ashley first. Are there any addendum items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's none this evening.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Motion to confirm the agenda, please. Councillor Butter or Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Danch. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Are there any disclosures of interest? With none, move on to items requiring a separate discussion. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 1, because I do see members of the Tourism Association here. Did you want number 2?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Item number 2 and item 11. Thank you.
Any further items, members? With none, if I can have a motion to pass the remainder. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Butters, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We have went through the presentations already. We're going to move on to delegations. First off, we have Mr. Michael Sharon and Jackie Landerak-Klauk with respect to the Westbrook Secondary School 40th reunion. And that would be the Spartans, would it not? Warriors.
Yes, you're probably too young to remember that.
Listen, Sharon, that's enough out of you, okay?
Thank you,
Welcome,
Mr. Mayor and members of council. We are here because the 40th and last reunion of Westbrook Secondary School will take place on September the 22nd. And this community, as well as 3 other communities in the southern tier of the Niagara region, were the communities that fed Westbrook Secondary School. It was located in Welland, started in 1972, and unfortunately closed in 1996. So Westbrook Secondary School no longer exists, therefore, this will be the last one, because we're getting, at least I'm getting a little older, Jackie's still young, but I'm getting a little older, and therefore the whole idea of trying to put together a reunion for a school that no longer exists, it becomes a little more difficult as time goes by. 40 years of Westbrook Secondary School is extremely important because it gave the young people in this community and the 3 other communities that I was talking about earlier an opportunity for something very special. Westbrook was a vocational high school. I was an academic teacher. They only allowed me to deal with students for half a day because the other half of the day they were in vocational programs, shops of 21 different shops in the school. And in 1972, when Bob Peart, the principal, put the school together, half the staff was academic, half the staff was technical in one shape, form, or another. And we taught young people very important life skills that made it possible for them to go out and find a job and to employ themselves, Jackie being one of them. She'll tell her little story in a couple of minutes. As I said, in 1972, Bob Peart and the rest of us got together in Welland on Clare Avenue, and the school opened. Over 5,000 young people went through Westbrook Secondary School, and one of the things I did in my education is I did my master's thesis on the graduation rate of the young people who went through that school. 75% of students who many thought were not capable of handling secondary school graduated with a secondary school diploma out of that school. Graduated not only with a secondary school diploma, but with a skill. And they were able to go and find employment, and they are doing that today. Many of them live in your community. But because of the problem I talked about earlier about the school not existing, getting this message out to people is very difficult. Therefore, we're using you as a conduit here to try to get to the people who live in Port Colborne, who are part of Westbrook's history, and to get them to come out on the 22nd of September. That's why we're here, and that's what we're going to try to do in our program. Jackie, and we won't keep you very long, but Jackie wants to tell you a little bit about her story because she was a student there. Hard to believe when you look at the 2 of us that she was a student and I was a teacher, but she was a student there, and Jackie would like to tell you what she gained by being at Westbrook Secondary School.
Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and citizens of Port Colborne. My name is Jackie Landerak-Klauk, and I am a graduate of 1989 from Westbrook Secondary School and a citizen of Port Colborne. I'm here this evening to tell you why I'm celebrating Westbrook's 40th school reunion. This school has made me the success I am today. The encouragement and resources that were given to me allowed me to graduate Westbrook with an Ontario Secondary School diploma and a hairstyling license, along with a diploma at Sheridan College in aesthetics, and currently a graduate of Niagara College in adult education. Westbrook teachers were always encouraging, striving for something better in life, success, and determination. In my high school years, I was a representative in all my grades, and in grade 12, I became vice president of student council. I became valedictorian of my graduating class and received the Excellence of Education's Award. This was all accomplished through hard work and support from all my facilitators and family. Today, I stand alongside one of my former teachers, Mr. Michael Sharon, who I consider a wonderful mentor. Along with many other former students, I'm here to celebrate the success of Westbrook students who have made all their goals possible because of this wonderful school and the opportunities it gave us all. In our committee, we have students from graduating classes from 1972 to 1989. And everyone here is to celebrate Welland's best school that existed, which was Westbrook Secondary School. To all former students, please join us in celebrating the 40th reunion of Westbrook Secondary School on September 22nd. Come and join us and share your stories and experiences of your past and present with former teachers and students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Obviously, Jackie very clearly shows that students from Westbrook Secondary School found success and became very important parts of their own community. You're lucky enough to have Jackie as part of your community. Now, Westbrook Secondary School was great for me. I spent 17 years there, became an administrator there, and ended up at Port Colborne High School for 4 years before I went on to Thorold to finish up my career. But 17 years in a school where I grew as a person, because we were able to work with young people. And I will say it very clearly and very plainly, we taught young people the skills they needed to be able to grow. We want those young people to come back together as adults and let us know and join together, let us know the successes they've found in life. And join together and have a great day together, because I strongly believe this will be the last time we'll be able to do that. I've given actually a list of telephone numbers where people can call. This is sort of the iffy time when you're organizing these things. How many people are going to show up? How many hamburgers do you order? How do you do all these things together? Do the very best we can to get that information out so people will call, get tickets, and come out and enjoy the day. So if you know anyone, and anyone watching this on COGECO, if they know anyone at all who was a student at Westbrook Secondary School or knows students from Westbrook Secondary School, please contact them, let them know that the numbers are available on posters that'll be here at this City Hall and the other 3 City Halls, Welland, Wainfleet, and Pelham, that were feeder areas for the school itself, and get them to come out and enjoy themselves, meet their old friends, have a great time, and enjoy 40 years of a great place where young people learned to be able to handle life. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate the time here today.
I appreciate your time too, Mike and Jackie. Thank you for the presentation. It's very well, and I think it's timely, especially after reading an editorial that was in the Import over the weekend or on Friday. And you know, there's no question that Westbrook School did blaze the trail for the training of our youth to get into the skilled trades throughout the Niagara region. Yes. Something, quite frankly, that both boards sort of missed the boat on after Westbrook was shut down. And for, I'd say, probably close to 10 or 15 years, there was a void there to be able to educate our youth to get into the skilled trades. And back then it wasn't, I'll say the challenge wasn't there with respect to ensuring that they are trained, because we already had quite a robust workforce. But now more than ever, of course, that's no longer the case. And that workforce is now needing to be trained. And finally, both the public and Catholic boards injected what you otherwise had in Westbrook, now here locally, Port Colborne High School and Lakeshore, through their high skills major programs. And we see it year after year, and I know Stephen, our Director of Economic Development, sees it with respect to ensuring that our workforce is well trained, right from the high school age, getting into post-secondary, as well as taking full advantage of the apprenticeship programs, as well as the co-op programs. And once again, you know, look no further than Thurston Machine and Oscom Steel down the road here, who are both taking full advantage of the high school major programs at both high schools. And again, I know the Tribune did an editorial on it last week with how important that program is. And Westbrook started that. Westbrook blazed that trail, and now both high schools here in Port Colborne are continuing those vocational programs, preparing our youth to enter the skilled trade workforce. So not only is this a time to celebrate the 40th anniversary, but 40 years after, but as well recognize people like you, Jackie, who are so valuable to our communities. So I thank you for your time here tonight to articulate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We really appreciate your words today.
And if you can give us get some of that information to us, whether electronically to me directly, mayor@portcolborne.ca. Ashley has it. Yeah. We can get it on. We can get it on our website as a link, and hopefully help people and steer them towards you folks to get them out to the celebration.
Great. Okay. Just ask one more thing. All the media is here. If you can get this out in some way, we would really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Where is the celebration, guys? Club Richelieu. Great. We're now going to move on to our second delegation. We have Mr. Bert Decker, Knights of Columbus, Our Lady of Fatima, Council 3732, Treasurer. And Bert is here to check presentation towards the Lockgate Park gazebo. Bert, welcome.
Thank you.
Are you behaving?
No,
Bert.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Heil, Mr. Hanson, Mr. Sinise, Mr. Aquilina, Mrs. Grigg, ladies and gentlemen. 20 years ago this past July, my late brother Matt and I poured the base for the gazebo at Lockgate Park on behalf of our council 3732 to commemorate the 500th anniversary of Columbus' discoveries of America. Now, 20 years later, it gives me great pleasure, Mr. Mayor, on behalf of the Knights of Columbus, Our Lady Fatima Council 3732, this check toward the cost of the new steel gazebo at Lockgate Park. Along with the viewing stand, the picnic pavilion, the new skate park, and now the new gazebo, Lockgate Park is truly a great community park. Thank you for allowing me to make this presentation this evening.
No, Ron Hanson, yes, you.
Yeah, oh, picture time.
And you know what, Harry, I'm gonna get you out here too. Come on up. Come on up. You're gonna present this to Ron Hanson.
Okay.
As well as Harry here. Harry's our new Director of Community Services. He's a new Gary Macon's-Tom Landon, so.
Okay. Oh,
He's
my God.
the new guy.
You can replace both these guys?
Yeah. So that'd be great if you can present it to all of us.
Okay, there we go. You're more than welcome. Our pleasure as members of the Knights of Columbus.
That's great.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Very
it looks
appreciate
beautiful. It looks great. I got a beautiful picture of it at home hanging on my wall. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys want to get a picture? We'll get one out here.
You get one?
Yeah, we'll get a picture of it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. I see Mr. Landon back there too, and he's got a tie on. I'm impressed, Tommy. Yeah, Tommy with a tie on, yeah. It's been a while. Our next delegation this evening is Mr. Jeff Ballin. Jeff's the events coordinator for All Hands on Deck, Port Colborne's Niagara Night of Art. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you.
It's been a long time since I've seen you with no goalie pads on, or... Welcome, Jeff. It's great to have you out tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to tell you a little bit about this exciting event for the city. As you may know, Niagara was selected as a cultural capital of Canada for 2012, along with Calgary. And you've probably seen the banners around the city as well as other Niagara communities. The Niagara Nights of Art project is designed to celebrate the arts and highlight their value in our communities. Based on the successful James Street Night of Arts concept in St. Catharines, Niagara Nights of Art will be free, family-friendly events that celebrate all arts disciplines. So music, theater, dance, literary arts, visual art, media, new media, installation arts, and heritage. As part of this project, an event will take place in each of Niagara's 12 municipalities in 2012, and they'll all feature local artists. Some of the events have already occurred. Fort Erie just had theirs in Ridgeway this past weekend. The Port Colborne edition is called All Hands on Deck. The idea for the event grew out of discussions with the planning committee for the very successful downtown art crawl that was held in June. And a popular feature of that event was a community canvas, which we have a similar one here. It was basically a chance for visitors to the event to dip a brush in paint and get artistic. This and other hands-on experiences of the event, such as the pottery wheel, were hit with the crowds, and the idea for the All Hands on Deck event was born. We are looking right now for artistic talent to make the event unforgettable. The event, as the name suggests, is focused on visitor engagement, hands-on workshops and demonstrations in the arts that will make our event unique. Artists working in any media are welcome to apply to be part of the event. It's a pretty straightforward application, basically who, what, and how much it will cost to put on the event. And basically the free all ages event will take place on Saturday, October 20th, 2012, from noon to 8 o'clock at Roselawn Center for the Arts. Artist fees will be paid to all participants selected by a selections committee of knowledgeable artists and arts professionals. So we won't have starving artists here. So, and assessment criteria will include innovation, public engagement, and feasibility. The deadline for applications is Friday, September 21st, 2012, and the competition is an open call, but priority will be given to artists living and/or working in the city of Port Colborne. Children and adults will enjoy this free event featuring visual arts, sculpture, and many other creative forms of expression set out in stations in the lovely Heritage House of Roselawn Center for the Arts. Choose to participate in as many activities you want. Each event will take an hour or less, and you will learn from skilled local artists. Come for the afternoon, the evening, or stay all day to take part in art. And of course, you get to take whatever you make, take it home with you. So for more information on artist submissions or events occurring in the region, you can visit niagaraculture2012.ca. So there you go. Or you can contact me at allhandsondeckpc@gmail.com or call me at 905-321-2122. The event is also on Facebook, so we have at facebook.com/allhandsondeckpc. And so we'll have there's links to all of the materials there. Also make sure that there's printed applications that are available at Roselawn. They'll be available starting tomorrow for those that like the good old-fashioned paper. I'd like to thank Mr. Stephen Thompson and Mr. Bob Heil for their assistance in getting this project going. And thank you for your time and support of this event. I'll update you further as we get closer to the event. And once again, it's Saturday, October 20th at Roselawn from noon till 8 o'clock. So circle that in your calendars. And just, I guess, wanted to mention, make reference to, I understand, Mr. Mayor, you're going to make reference to the community canvas later in your report. But the community canvas idea that Gail Todd of Something Else started was extended this year to Canal Days. And the photo basically to the right of it is a photo my father, John Ballin, took it. And basically it's serving as a model scene of the canvas. So that was actually painted by 136 different people. So that's a type of participatory activity we'd like to see with all hands on deck. So I think that's pretty much it for me. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to present you with a Niagara Night of Art t-shirt and window decal for City Hall to show your support for the project. Decal is kind of backwards. But
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And there's a t-shirt for you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Look, Ron, Philadelphia colors. Thanks, Jim, once again.
Okay, thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it, appreciate it.
Also a political party.
Halloween's coming.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Well done. And Jeff does make a great point with respect to the community canvas that we have in front of us. Gail Todd, of course, everybody knows who Gail is. As we know, Tom Lennon as Mr. Port Colborne. I think Gail's becoming Mrs. Port Colborne. But Gail from Something Else on West Street wanted to do something a bit different this year, to do a hands-on activity that Jeff mentioned for Canal Days on the sidewalk outside of her store on the corner of Clarence and West Street. And the canvas that we see here in front of us during the summer art crawl was such a success that Gail decided to expand that and to do one for Canal Days with a Canal Days theme. Gail's uncle Roger Evans built the 6'4" frame, and Gail stretched, stapled, and gunned and glued the canvas. And John Ballin, a prize winner in the city's seasonal photo contest, was gracious enough to allow use of his image of an upbound Salty that was transiting the Welland Canal under the bridge, and as well the J.W. Cooper pilot boat on its way to pick up and deliver a pilot onto that Salty. John's son, Jeff, as we met tonight, helped set the grid on the photo, as he mentioned earlier, measure the ratio to the canvas, and with the chalk line, we set, or Gail set the spaces to 12 vertical and 12 horizontal, 144 squares. Dave Joyce from Port Paint and Paper provided the latex paint, and with that, pallets to mix the colors were take-home containers from the Smokin' Buddha were donated. Kevin was gracious enough to bring over some containers so that people can utilize for the paints. The canvas was set up during Canal Days, and people went on their way to, and after invitation, to choose a square and paint their way, and the final product is what you see before us. Some people were, from what Gail tells us, were a little bit reluctant at first to choose a square other than blue for water or sky. They maybe not seeming to be as artistic as they thought they were, but we showed them, or they showed them how simple it is, and just follow the shapes and colors in their squares, and they just did wonderfully. A real sense of accomplishment to be one small but significant part of a greater thing, as you see here in front of us. There were often people waiting in line to paint during the Canal Days celebrations, as only 3 or 4 at a time can do so. Hundreds of Canal Day photo albums will have a shot of this canvas in progress. Participants can see it now on Facebook. It is on Facebook, Something Else Port Colborne. All ages from all over, everyone, almost everyone, who painted a square signed our guest book. People from Port Colborne, Welland, Fort Erie, Hamilton, Milton, Guelph, London, Ingersoll, Barrie, Toronto, Buffalo, Erie, Philadelphia, New York City, Holland, Austria, Japan, Germany, 136 in all. Near the end, some people painted more than one square. The painting will be exhibited here at City Hall for a couple of weeks, then back to Something Else, where it will be on display until someone loves it enough to make it their own. If anyone is interested in purchasing the painting, it will help pay for the next community canvas, art canvas, during the next art crawl event. Just simply contact Gail over at Something Else, once again at the corner of Clarence and West Street, and make a bid in a silent auction, and it could in fact adorn your living room someday, which quite frankly wouldn't be a bad thing. It is a nice painting. So by all means, for all you folks with the Christmas season coming up, I can't believe I'm saying that, but it is coming up. It's only months away. You might want to make it part of your collection or a gift for someone else's. So many thanks to the international collaboration of artists who helped create a Canal Days masterpiece. And as Jeff stated, we by all means look forward to this event, as well as many other art events that are going to be taking place here in the city of Port Colborne, hosted by many people. And we look forward to the next canvas, hopefully sooner than Canal Days, but at the very latest, Canal Days celebration will once again be the home of everyone's participation to do another canvas. So with that, Jeff, thank you. And by all means, all the people that were involved, including your dad, thank them as well. It's very much appreciated. And Gail, if you're watching, and I know you are, thank you, and God bless, and hopefully you'll have some more canvases coming our way so that we can once again showcase our beautiful community. So with that, we're going to move on to the Regional Councilor's report. Members of Council, Councilor Barrick had stated there hasn't been much activity at the region for the month of August, but by all means, if you have anything that you want to bring his way, email, phone call, or if you want to bring it to my attention as the other regional councilor, I encourage you to do so this evening. So are there any questions or comments to the region? Besides getting that OP through the region as quickly as possible, we'll be back at it full force next week. As I said, the region had taken some time off during the month of August. So with that, we'll move on to Councilor's items, new business. Councilor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one. When I got home today, my phone was buzzing pretty good on the message end. Apparently, Canada Post is conducting a rural survey safety audit of mailboxes, and some of the people who have been informed that they need to move their mailboxes, I'm somewhat at a loss to figure out how moving them to the spot where they say they need to move them to is making anything safer. But I got a hold of Mr. Hansen, and I called Malcolm Allen's office as well, and so I'm going to be getting some further information. I know Mr. Hansen is getting some information. Part of this is going to boil down to mailboxes are going to be put in in danger of getting dinged by our snow plows, by the looks of it, where the flags have been placed where they want the boxes to go. They're so close to the edge of the pavement that it'll be a miracle if mailboxes don't get pegged off this winter. So anyway, I'm really grateful to Mr. Hansen's help, and I'm hoping that once I get some more of the addresses, that maybe a letter from this council going to whomever in Canada Post that's in charge of this endeavor, that we would have that support, because some of them don't seem to make a lot of sense. There may be others that do relocating, but the ones that I've been notified about, I can't make heads or tails of how it's supposed to be safer. So I would appreciate any help your office can give us when we get further information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Butters, and thank you, Mr. Hansen. Members of council, any further new business? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ron. I had an opportunity to go out to a friend's house last night out in Wildwood Road, and it was an awful slow drive going out Kalali Street. And Councilor Bodner's not here, and I know he brought it forward before. Where are we with the speed study?
Mr. Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Councilor Elliott, we are working on it. Just a brief update. We're looking to bring that forward probably in September. One of the reasons we're holding off, if council, I'm sure they've noticed, we've refurbished, put new traffic signals at 2 of the intersections in Port Colborne. Council approved this money some time ago. The work is essentially done except for some reinstatements. We want to, as part of the discussion on Kalali Street East, we want to look at advanced signals timed at the school on Kalali Street East. We're looking to find what funding might be available out of that budget for the traffic signals. We think there's going to be a slight surplus because of the way the signals were done. And we're looking for a slight surplus there so that we can report to council that we possibly have the funding for the signals, time signals that we're going at the schools in each direction. So we're hoping to bring that forward in September and have all the details for you then.
Thank you, Mr. Hansen. Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Further new business? Councilor Danch.
Just a short note, our Main Street BIA hasn't got together for quite some time, and I'm going to be going down Main Street trying to touch base with a lot of our friendly merchants, and hopefully we can get a meeting together in mid-September and discuss good old Main Street, my favorite place to work and play every day. So we'll be seeing all our local merchants real soon.
Thank you, Councilor Danch. Further, Councilor Demery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to whoever on staff can answer this question. I've had several inquiries from the community. They would like to know where we're at with the new Health and Wellness Center as far as budget and being on time goes.
Mr. Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're probably at about 85% in terms of completion of the facility based on cost and what's been paid to the contractor at this point in time. Progress has been very good. We're probably 4 to 5 weeks behind in terms of the original schedule. We're still looking to have a substantial completion in November of this year. We talked about a soft opening meaning that some of our partners and the other agencies come in and start fitting out their spaces hopefully in November with a substantial completion of the general contractor. So that's the target. Everything's moving along very well. Essentially the work left in the facility is a finishing process, painting, finishing. All the equipment is in place. They're currently tiling the 2 tanks in the aquatic center. They're starting to put it in the boards in the rink 2. All the concrete's poured in both the rinks. So there's tremendous progress in there, and it really looks fantastic. The outside landscaping is being done, the concrete work. The asphalt for the parking lot and all the roads, access points is scheduled for just after Labor Day. We've held off on that to try to accommodate the soccer schedule and not inconvenience them during the summer months. So everything's going very well, and we'll keep council apprised of the progress as we go.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. And I've got to say, it is really looking good there. The other thing that people were asking about is the skateboard park as far as an opening day. Kids are really getting anxious and they're getting excited. They're seeing it coming to an end, so they want to hear about it.
Mr. Hanson, any comments on that?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, the skateboard park's coming along well. They've poured concrete. I know we were looking today at paint splotches for the color for the Algoma sort of theme. The Algoma colors, now we've been waiting for those for a while to paint the concrete in the places where the ship is being shown as part of the Algoma fleet. So that's going forward. So everything's going along well. I think we're looking for an opening sometime in October, but we'll have to move that target as we see fit as the construction progresses.
We're hoping for October 20th as a date for grand opening. It's like getting a bicycle for Christmas, right? Thank you, Councillor. Just one question I have, Peter. Last year we had a bit of animosity, especially with the great weather we had in September and October, a bit of animosity over at Sugarloaf Marina with respect to taking down the hydro and taking down some of the services that we had. That's not going to happen this year again. We're going to keep very in tune with the weather and hopefully allow the boaters to stay in a lot longer if they choose to, versus basically being told to leave. Where are we at with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As you know, yeah, last fall was exceptional. So we're going to keep an eye on, see how it goes. Instead of scheduling, we're going to try to monitor it as we go along, and probably be meeting. We're in the middle of August. We'll probably be meeting with Marina Manager and that, and see how we can schedule things going forward, and see how we can just put staff on notice. But we'll sort of try to move things along as long as the weather holds out. We'll try to accommodate as best as possible.
Great, thank you, Peter. And I think the overall message is, and as council stated last year, we're open for business until the snow flies, so to speak. If those folks want to be at the marina and they want to be taking full advantage of the marina, especially if the weather continues to be as well as it is, and not just the marina, also the ramp, because last year we did have a loss in some new revenues because we took the folks off the ramp a bit earlier than we should have. So hopefully that'll continue this year as well in terms of keeping that ramp open later than shutting it down sooner.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, the only thing that we'll be looking at also in trying to coordinate is our timing with regard to any maintenance or anything that we have to normally we would do in the fall, so that we make sure that we give ourselves enough time before the winter really sets in.
Sure. Okay, great. No further questions or comments from council. How about staff? Any updates, guys, on anything? Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, you recall there was a report that we filed with council in respect to bus parking at the West Side Arena. And council referred it back to staff looking for a more comprehensive report in respect of the disposition of the building and what was going to happen and all of that. The report right now still is not quite ready. We're still waiting for some information. I'm working with Mr. Aquilina. One of the questions that come up from the buses right now, the bus drivers, we've told them that at this point in time, it's going to be subject to council approval, but at the end of December, there is no more parking. That property is intended to be sold, and they would have to seek other places. We are currently talking with the owners of West Side Mall, RioCan, about the possibility of relocating buses over there. Their board of directors are reviewing that option. We also have a couple of trucks that are right now parking at the West Side Arena, and as you know, the trucks create a lot of damage to parking lots. Nonetheless, we're giving them also notice at the end of December. The property is going to have clear title, and with the intention for council to consider whether it's going to dispose of the building or the property, or keep it or whatever it wants to do. But we're giving notice right now, so council decision is not fettered by some kind of cloud on title as a respect of the current use on the property. That report will be coming shortly. We were hoping to get it here before the end of August. We have given notice to the board and to the trucks that right now it's still the same as last year, so there will be buses parking at the school board, but they are also aware of what's going on and will be considerably hoping to move or to adjust their schedules and parking based on council's decision in respect of I guess the disposition or retention of the West Side Arena property.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Any questions or comments to that, members of council? With none, we're now going to move on to the adoption of the minutes. We have one set of minutes here, the minutes of the 19th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, dated August 13, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to consideration of the items requiring separate discussion as lifted by members of the council. We'll start off with item 1. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. That staff be directed to proceed with the necessary updates for the Niagara's South Coast Tourism Association, Inc., to the letter of patent for the Roselawn Corporation and banking and insurance updates, and that a special meeting of the Roselawn Board of Directors be called to appoint the new Board of Directors.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Desmarais. Before I go to questions or comments, I'm going to allow Mr. Thompson, who is our Director of Economic Development, to introduce the report as it's under his signature and give us some information, or more importantly, give the public some information with respect to what this is all about. Mr. Thompson?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll speak roughly to the report and certainly can answer any questions following that. It really is quite an exciting report to be bringing forward to council. Efforts have been underway for close to 2 years in terms of assessing the interest of the business community to have a tourism association. That is a membership-based tourism association comprised of stakeholders from the Niagara South Coast area. Last year, many folks will remember, council certainly will remember, that we made great strides in pulling together information on what a tourism association can do to benefit our area after doing research on successful models right across Niagara, right across Ontario. Since the conclusion of that year-long initiative last year, it really has been the business community that's been approaching us on several instances saying this is something that's really important for elevating tourism in our area. And a group has come together as an interim board of directors so that we can indeed proceed with establishing the Tourism Association as a legitimate incorporated entity to begin providing services, begin soliciting memberships and that sort of thing. So I would like to highlight the stakeholders who are all still here with us in the room this evening, which have formed our interim board of directors. The intent is that this interim board will serve for roughly a year to help get the organization started, and then there will be an open, transparent process whereby members can elect the board, which would serve for a specified term. In terms of the interim board, we're fortunate to have Jonathan George from the Clarion in Fort Erie, Lynn Goulet from the Best Western Rose City Suites, and is also a member of the Port Colborne Wainfleet Chamber of Commerce Board, Gloria Simon from Lake Breeze Niagara Bed and Breakfast here in Port Colborne, Ann Matischuk, who everyone will remember from her work last year, Dolores Fabiano from the Welland Pelham Chamber of Commerce, and Kathy Buttigieg from Horseplay Niagara. So that is our interim board of directors. We've had our second committee meeting. So far we're a committee. After this report is dealt with this evening, then hopefully we can transition into having official board meetings and finalize the incorporation of the association.
Thank you, Stephen. Well stated. Members of council, any comments or questions? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I got to give kudos out to Stephen and to Ann, because when this first original meeting took place last year at Roselawn, and the mayor was in attendance, and I believe Councillor Desmarais was there as well, I went in with trepidation thinking, well, you know, if 10, 15, 20 people show up, we'll be lucky. And lo and behold, 100? Pretty close. pretty close to 100 people showed up. So that shows you the interest in getting this association together. So maybe if you guys would stay around long enough, you could take the interim off and become the board. But it's great to hear that you're moving forward in this, and it's great to hear that so many businesses in the area, and that includes Wainfleet, Port Colborne, Ridgeway, Crystal Beach, Fort Erie, Welland, are all interested in becoming partners. And when that happens in one geographical area, nothing but good things can happen. So it's kudos to you guys. Keep up the good work, and just build on the enthusiasm from that meeting. I know it was a year ago, but you know, good things will happen. So keep at it.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Further questions or comments? Councillor Butters?
Just have one here. I see where Peter Sinez has signed a thing and put in brackets, no funds available. So I love, Peter, your honesty is, well, it just speaks for itself. But what my question is because this is going to go under the Roselawn Corporation, is that?
Mr. Heil?
I just want you to explain a little bit about how that part works.
Your worship, what will happen is the Roselawn Corporation is a morphed company that actually began as the curling club. And it went from the curling club and it changed into over time, they turned it into Roselawn Corporation. The intention is here, because you have a corporation, the corporation serves only a paper purpose at this point. It was kept only to finalize the transfer of the liquor license for the Roselawn Center to council. But it is a department of council. The Roselawn Center remains. There are no impacts there. It's just that we have this shell corporation. And rather than going through the process of trying to create a brand new corporation, getting it registered and all that, I looked at it and said, you've got a corporation here, and I suggested, had a conversation with Mr. Thompson, is that this could serve its purpose. It can change its name, and it can change its purposes. And the mission and purposes are outlined in the report, mission statement. So what will happen is the current board of directors, which is myself, Peter Sinez, and Sue Patterson, will meet, providing this report is approved. We will then appoint new members to the board of directors of the Roselawn Corporation, who will proceed along this mission statement objects, file those with the ministry, and change the name as required and change the letters patent, so that the Tourism Association then is actually under the umbrella of a corporation. It really won't be the Roselawn Corporation anymore. It'll be the Tourism Association Corporation. They'll be able to change the name to whatever is most fitting and most suitable. Corporation's established, it exists, and they'll be able to just simply change the paperwork rather than go through the process of trying to create a whole new company.
So basically, they're just taking the number and changing the name. Councillor Butters?
So the Tourism Association, though, is not going to be a committee of council. It'll stand on its own.
That's right.
As a separate
That's right.
entity. Perfect.
Great.
Lovely.
Thank you, Councillor Butters. Further questions or comments? Just briefly, I do want to give credit to Mr. Thompson and all you folks back there who, and not only you folks, but all the folks that showed up at that first meeting that really participated and gave this whole direction some validity and validated the need for a South Niagara, and I want to say that, a South Niagara Tourism Corporation. And Stephen rightly noted that this is a membership-based team. It's a membership-based corporation. And with that, and what has to be stated here is, although it was led and started by the city of Port Colborne, it's not the city of Port Colborne. It's South Niagara, which includes representation from, of course, Port Colborne, but also along the south coast, Fort Erie, Wainfleet, and as part of that as well, Ridgeway, Crystal Beach, Welland, and to some extent even Pelham. Did I mention Wainfleet? Can't forget Wainfleet. But again, how important it is to recognize that it's not Port Colborne, it's South Niagara, and ultimately the intent is to really contribute to the overall Niagara brand, and it is about time that here we are as the region of Niagara, the Niagara brand, and how much more is here in Niagara with respect, yes, obviously the falls and the wineries and those things that are traditionally known worldwide, but how important it is now to even equally as important to boast and to ensure that people recognize that Niagara is much more than just the falls and wineries. And we have the Welland Canal, which, here in Port Colborne, we have the second longest lock in the world. It used to be the longest lock until Panama expanded, but the second longest lock in the world. We have, what they have in Welland and Fort Erie with the history and heritage, agritourism, Waynfleet and Pelham, the short hills, the recreation trails, the beaches, the marinas, the waterfronts, and the list goes on with respect to what we have in Niagara South Coast. And it's about time that internationally people recognize that Niagara has just so much more to offer to ensure that those folks that live here, work here, or play here recognize exactly what's here in the region. But again, I did want to thank all you folks for being here, and I echo the comments that were already made from Councillor Elliott in particular, with respect to your focus being much more than interim, that's permanent. And with that stated, really ensuring that the whole complement of assets when it comes to tourism and lifestyle in Niagara does include Niagara South Coast. And I'm confident from seeing the faces in that back row that by all means it'll be there, front and center, and internationally people recognize Niagara for all that it has to offer, not just about some of what it has to offer. So we look forward to it. We look forward to you injecting your ideas through Stephen to the RTO as well, because I think equally as important for those that we want to bring here to work, visit, or play, to understand what we have available here in Niagara South Coast, as well as all of Niagara. It's equally as important that the RTO recognizes that as well, and that the policies that they've in fact put in place and the dollars that they spend on marketing does in fact include Niagara South Coast. We have Niagara Falls, we have Niagara in the lake, now we have Niagara South Coast. So very important to recognize that, and once again I congratulate all you folks for being a part of that process. Well done, great job. So with that, no further comments or questions, members of council? Stephen, you're good? All those in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 2. Councillor Elliott.
The council approves an extension of a contractual arrangement of 1/2 day per week to Dr. Jeffrey Remington from September 1st, 2012 to December 31st, 2012, in order to complete current projects underway and to further our efforts to secure funding for sustainability. The cost of such services will be a total of $6,000 for the 4-month extension, that the cost be funded from the medical and physician recruitment reserve, and that the clerk be authorized and directed to prepare and present the appropriate contract.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Do I have a seconder to that recommendation, please? Councillor Desmarais. Before I go on to any questions or comments, I'm going to allow Joanne to give some thought about this report, because she, again, as Director of Health Services here in the city, she authored it. So, Joanne, she's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We have attached our year 1 report, which is expected to be in the health minister's hands within the next week or two. It has been forwarded to the LIN and approved by our stakeholders at the LIN and by Dr. Carl Stobie. We are moving very quickly with some wonderful new programs. We are sending a huge team of Port Colborne healthcare providers to be trained by Dr. Linda Lee in Kitchener. She's the guru of memory clinics and the starting up of a memory clinic, and this will be the first non-family health team environment that she will be leading us into that environment of developing that memory clinic. We are also working with several pharma partners into starting a COPD and asthma clinic and a heart failure clinic. So that is moving forward very well. And we are also very excited to cross our fingers and hope that we have proceeded with an application for physician assistant, which is ministry funded. By being able to bring in a funded physician's assistant, our current physicians will be able to then roster more patients to their clinics, which means that the relocation of Dr. Pruitt to St. Catharines will definitely be assisted by this. So without a physician leading many of these opportunities, it's difficult for myself to be seen as getting all of the support of all of the physicians. And I think you can see just by the number of learners that we have in the community right now that we do in fact have a lot of support from many physicians. And I think it's important that we do see that to the end, which is, we would see that as being December 31st. And then after that, it would be part of my portfolio to continue to administer the IPC, but without physician leadership, with physician leadership being done on a volunteer basis. But I do think that we do need the professional services by Dr. Remington on a half-day basis until then, just to see these projects that we've committed to, that are funded by other pharma partners and the ministry through to the end.
Thank you, Joanne. Well stated, well done. Members of council, you have the report in front of you. You're very much aware through my mayor's reports of what this is accomplishing, as well as from Joanne's reports and her emails and different communications she's distributed to members of council of what this is all about. So are there any questions or comments? With none, just one quick comment, Joanne. I'd be remiss if I didn't, especially following the former report that really articulated but also encouraged involvement from not just Port Colborne but all of South Niagara. And I think the IPC that we've created here in our community, although once again we've led it, we've created it, it's now including a lot more jurisdictions than just the city of Port Colborne.
Oh, absolutely. The application that we put forward to the Ministry for a Physician's Assistant is with the idea that for the first time ever there will be the physician assistant that we would hopefully hire would commit to providing some primary care in Wainfleet 1 day a week as well, which would then bring some primary care and hopefully involve some of our other municipalities into some of our programming.
Absolutely. I think we all recognize that healthcare has no borders, and one of the things that we are promoting and the success that we've seen through this program is that, yes, it promotes, integrates, aligns, and delivers new improved model of primary care. I think the primary care in Port Colborne in particular is tenfold in comparison to what it used to be. It's been so much enhanced and therefore taken a lot of pressure off the hospitals. But having said that, how important it is for our IPC to have all the physicians engaged, to have them all communicating. Whether it's a hospitalist at the hospital when the patient leaves the hospital and goes into primary care, and vice versa, that communication is so key. And not only that is the dollars that it saves. I think, Joanne, you've articulated on many occasions that having the IPC in place saves our dollars not only from the capital side, but also from the operational side. So members of council, what our hope is now is to get back to the health minister and have her understand of what we're actually doing for the ministry with respect to not only providing integrated, enhanced, community-based primary health care, but also with that said, saving dollars for the ministry moving forward. And with that, we are paying for this right now. We're working with other providers to pay for this as well. But I think what's equally as important is for the province to step to the plate and look at these opportunities that we've created here in our small part of the world to in fact be funded and therefore be saving dollars on behalf of the Ministry of Health. Any comment on that, Joanne?
Absolutely, that's the goal, and the goal of the LIN as one of our stakeholders is to move this forward to find sustainability through ministry dollars and to get it funded properly through the ministry. It's unusual for a municipality to get involved in such a huge project such as this, but it is an innovative way. But I also think that it was very unusual for our physicians to lose their privileges in a hospital in such a fashion as they did. So I think we found an innovative way to get the physicians back together and to working together and coming up with innovative ways to still care for their patients. So I think that we have to look at what was done in essence to the healthcare here in Port Colborne, but what we've been able to then come up with to make them want to stay and to continue to teach, as you saw tonight. I mean, they're still very excited to teach and to practice here, and we need to recognize that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a lot of other communities actually jumping on board of this IPC that we've created here. Grimsby, I hear, is interested. Welland with the family health team in Welland, the academic family health team.
Yep.
In Welland, as well as working with our different clinics, whether it be in Mapleview, whether it be here at Charlotte, or even at the hospital.
Yep, and even liaising beyond those borders into Kitchener-Waterloo, and liaising with that, because the medical school is Kitchener-Waterloo, Niagara, and Hamilton, is liaising with all of them and making sure that we're all using best practice in chronic disease prevention modalities, which we are doing.
Yeah, I think that's the key is best practices. Yeah, Absolutely. Thank you, Joanne. And with no further questions or comments, members, Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
Just one quick question. I'm kind of stuck on something. I know. You said that this is going to run to the end of the year, till December 31st. That's great. The thing that wasn't so great is when you said it becomes part of your portfolio. Okay. How much are we dumping on you, and how long are you going to look after it before you can push it off to somebody else and get somebody else to kind of look after it? I don't want to see you take on too much, because I know that your plate is pretty full right now. So is this on top of everything else, and how long will it last till you can find somebody else?
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. That's a great question. Joanne?
Oh, boy. I think it's important to realize that as the projects move forward, the physicians become leaders. I think that the physicians are you're seeing more and more leadership from the physicians themselves as they lead these particular clinics. So I think as you see that engagement develop, you'll see not just with the physicians, but with the other ancillary healthcare providers. We're already seeing that with the memory clinic. We're seeing a nurse practitioner that has come forward from the Niagara Health System that is fully involved, and the Niagara Health System is actually paying for her to be involved with this, so she is being lent out. So same with the CCAC case manager. So it's not just me, it's just one person that's sort of putting all the pieces together and making sure it stays glued together, and that we all still remain congenial and for the best practice of the patients, and I feel confident that I can, in fact, administer that.
Thank you, Joanne. And I think what has to be stated as well, and it's in here with respect to the IPC mandate, and it says here, and I'm just reading it, the second paragraph, page 61, it says here, a secondary goal is to improve physician satisfaction by adding much-needed allied healthcare professionals, thereby reducing workload and stress. So not only is this program trying to, for the patient's benefit, to try and give timely access to that health care that they require. And I say timely access to the health care they require, because not all the time does the patient get the health care they require, they're just tossed into an ER, or they're tossed into their GP, their general practitioner. Sometimes they might need mental health care. Sometimes they might need, another form of health care versus just seeing their general practitioner. So I think what this is going to do is provide that service, enhanced primary care, again, reducing the workload and stress off the GPs, the general practitioners. But I think for the practitioners themselves, it's a team approach. And not only does it take the stress and workload off them, but also there's a constant communication. There's a constant integration with the allied health care as well as the GPs themselves. So I think that's a huge benefit to both the patient and the actual provider of health care.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Elliott, I think this makes my actual real job of physician recruitment much easier. Because if I have a full team, and somebody that's not just going to be tossed in as a solo practitioner, right. So really it's quite self-serving and does make my job a little bit easier.
Mr. Heil?
Your Worship, I just wanted to very quickly state that we have been refocusing our specialist in health in this topic alone. At the beginning, we were tossing a lot of things at her, which she took on and ran with, but we've been slowly rechanneling Joanne so she can focus on primary health care to try and deal with the terrible position that the City of Port Colborne residents were put in with the hospital and the NHS. I'm not going to call it NHS plan, it was just an NHS something.
Thank you. And I think as well, what has to be said is that the South Niagara Healthcare Corporation is trying to facilitate a lot of this. Hence, my earlier comment with respect to, in comparison to what the Tourism Board offers, is a South Niagara approach. That we're not just doing it here as the City of Port Colborne, but it's all of us. It's Wainfleet, Port Colborne, Fort Erie, Welland, and Pelham. It's all of South Niagara looking after the needs of the patient in South Niagara. And I think this is just all, overall, a part of this, and a part of that whole mandate that the South Niagara Healthcare Corporation has taken upon itself. So, great job, Joanne.
Thank you.
As always, yeah. Thanks, Joanne. So with that, any further questions or comments, members? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Councillor Elliott, item 11.
I get them all tonight, don't I? It's a good thing I'm here. We wouldn't have anything to discuss. Yeah, that whereas at its last meeting of March 12th, Yeah. Council approved Chief Administrative Officer Report 2012-1 in respect to the Federal Heritage designation of the main lighthouse, and resolved that no further action be taken by the city on this matter. Mr. Wolf be so notified and sent a copy of the above referenced report.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Butters. Questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Just in reading his letter, it kind of piqued my interest, and I'd like to know if we can have a meeting with him just to find out exactly what his proposal is. I mean, it sounds good when he lists all the businesses that have supported him and the agencies and whatnot on what they've done so far with some of the patients. I just wondered if it makes sense to get together with staff and maybe get a report just to see what he's got planned. Have we ever costed out what they're looking for the lighthouses?
Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, after the final decision of council that we take no further action, we've not done anything, nor do we have any direction from council to do anything at this point. Anybody can buy a lighthouse. It doesn't have to be the city. If we cost out what it was, it can be a wonderful brick thing, but as soon as it's designated by the federal government, whoever has title, then is responsible to maintain those works for that light on the top. And as a heritage building, you can't change it. And that's the only way they'll transfer the title, or they tear it down. It's kind of a sad thing that the government's doing, but it was really, while it was intended initially to protect lighthouses, it actually ended up getting rid of them. And that was the end clause of the thing, to get rid of them. And ask the taxpayers in Canada to pay for them. Currently, council direction is do nothing, and that we would have to have a motion of reconsideration of council to provide other direction on it at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Councillor?
So would it be worth having the meeting? I mean, I'd like to find out more. You know, he's talking about basically setting up a corporation, and I just wondered if you know, if we could talk to him, just see what he expects from the city, what his expectations are. Sounds like a good idea. I really hate to, you know, tell people don't think outside the box and don't promote decent ideas. I wouldn't want to be on the hook for buying the lighthouses and have to maintain them. I mean, if that's what they're looking at, and his group can do something like that, it would be a heck of an opportunity for us to keep them. On the flip side of it, if nobody buys the two lighthouses, what happens to them?
Mr. Howe?
They take them down?
Your Worship, they have to maintain the lights. Whether or not the buildings remain is another decision for
beacons. They have to maintain the beacons.
They'd have to, yeah, I'm sorry, the beacons, that's it. It's range lights and beacons, and they have to be maintained for the shipping industry. I don't know what they do with the building. It would have to be something that you'd have to ask them.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Just as an FYI, I was approached by Mr. Erno Rossi. Erno is in the process right now of bringing some folks together. I'm not sure if Mr. Wolf is a part of that group, but they're bringing some people together to not only accumulate all the information, but also to look at a plan to designate those facilities. I've asked him to keep me in the loop, to keep me, you know, by all means, invite me to the meetings, so that way we can at least have some city presence in the effort. I have to concur with Mr. Heil. We want to be careful. Council wants to be careful. I think you mentioned it as well, that we don't want to, by default, end up, or the taxpayers by default ending up having to pay for a new service, something that's beyond our mandate locally here, although it's the mandate of the federal government, and we have an opinion on that, but not the mandate of the local government. We can still work with the folks that would want to see this happen. So Mr. Rossi has stated yes, he will let me know when his meetings are, and by all means, Councillor, if you want to be a part of that process, I'll be happy to involve you with the correspondence I received, as well as the meetings that I would otherwise have to go to.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. For sure, I'd like to be copied and be involved. If there's any meetings that people are having, I'd sure like to be attend. It's just, I can't figure out if they declare them surplus and nobody buys them, what's going to happen to them, right? They're just going to abandon them and leave them, and it's almost like, you know what, by default, if you don't get an offer on it, well, why don't you just kind of maybe give it to a service club that'll maintain them and look after them, and that's what I'd like to know. They're surplus, nobody wants them. What happens to them? I mean, that's a question that we should ask. is it Parks Canada or DFO looks after them?
Mr. Howe?
Maybe we could get an answer from them on what would happen if nobody steps forward.
If nobody steps forward, then, Your Worship, they're gonna do what they have to do to the building, that's all, whether or not they need the building. They don't need the buildings, the legislation's pretty clear. If the building's to be preserved, it'll be declared as a historic facility and will have to be maintained as such by whoever gets title to it. Petition of 25 names or whatever it is. It certainly isn't clear in the legislation what they're going to do with it after, but if nobody assumes it, I would presume they're going to maintain the beacon and economically do what they have to, I believe, with the building.
I'll keep you in the loop. Yeah, I'll keep you in the loop, and hopefully at the end of the day, it can be preserved. I don't think any of us want to see it go, but it's just a matter of who's going to assume, especially financial responsibility for it. I think that's the big one, and liability. It's easy to get your hands on it, but then the worrisome part is that what are you going to do with it after the fact, especially in terms of paying for it? So, okay, Councillor Demery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to be kept in the loop on that one. But after receiving that letter, I hopped on the internet and took a look. There are several lighthouse associations throughout the Great Lakes that are dealing with exactly this thing. And
they all are.
If you get on there and take a look, it makes some interesting reading. They've got some pretty crazy loopholes that have to be jumped through and got around, and unbelievable things have been happening. So yeah, I would proceed with caution on this, but I certainly would like to be a part of moving forward on it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Demery. And thank you, Councillor Elliott. I appreciate it. Members of council, any further questions or comments? Councillor Butters.
Yeah, just because the designation part of this, if you could also let the Heritage Committee as well in that loop of information. Down here is our chair, but I'm on that committee, and as is B. Kenny, so include B. Kenny. I'll volunteer her because I know she would.
Because she's not here right now. No problem. And you know what I'll do is I'll when I talk to Arnaud again, I'll mention to him that members of council are interested. So if you can keep all members of council as well as LACAC in the loop, and possibly a member of staff. I know they don't have nothing to do right now, so we'll throw somebody in there. I see Aquilina's hiding under his jacket right now. But by all means, just to keep us in the loop. So, good. All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. With that, that is the end of our Committee of the Whole agenda. If I can have a motion to adjourn this portion of the agenda. Councillor Danch, Councillor Demeray, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. We'll now move on to our council portion. Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda, please. Mover and seconder, Councillor Butters. Councillor Elliott, all in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Disclosures of interest. With none, we do have 3 sets of minutes. The minutes of the 30th meeting special of council, August 13th, 2012. The minutes of the 31st meeting, regular of council, dated August 13th, 2012. And then finally, the minutes of the 32nd meeting special of council, dated August 20th, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Danch, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Items requiring a separate discussion. For all the items listed on the agenda, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Demeray, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. No proclamations this evening. You're saving them for September, aren't you? Any notices of motion, members? With none, Madam Clerk, the introduction of the bylaws.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaws be read first, second, third time and finally passed. Bylaw 5846-112, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 11509781 as amended, respecting lands known as part of Park Lot 2, south side of Bell Street, and part of Park Lot 2, north side of Fraser Street, and 849 in the city of Port Colborne, municipally known as 42 and 46 McRae Avenue. Bylaw 5847-10112, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 4248-8402, being a bylaw designating land zoned within the City of Port Colborne as a site plan control procedure and establishing the composition and duties of the Manager of Planning and Development Services and the Planning and Development Committee. Bylaw 5848-10212, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an encroachment agreement regarding 220 King Street. Bylaw 5849-10312, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement with Prism Partners, Inc. regarding the Port Colborne Operations Center design bid build project. Bylaw 5850-10412, being a bylaw to authorize entering into a contract agreement with Ontario Clean Water Agency regarding tender 2012-17 water system leak detection service. Bylaw 5851-10512, being a bylaw for an appointment to the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And finally, bylaw 5852-10612, being a bylaw to temporarily close a section of King Street to vehicular traffic September 21st to September 23rd, 2012.
Thank you, Ashley. Mover and seconder to the bylaws, please. Councillor Danch, Councillor Butters. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Ms. Grigg, if we can have the confirmatory bylaw, please.
That the following bylaw be read 3 times and finally passed. Bylaw 5853-10712, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its special and regular meetings of Council August 27, 2012.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, mover and seconder, please. The confirmatory bylaw, Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Before I ask for a motion to go into closed session, I do want to announce to the public that our next meeting is on September 10th, Monday, September 10th, Committee of the Whole and Council beginning at 6:30 p.m. here in the Council Chamber. And our next meeting following that in September is Monday, September 24th. Committee of the Whole, Council once again here in the Chamber beginning at 6:30 p.m. We do have school starting up, folks, soon, very soon, just after Labor Day, just after this weekend. By all means, for all you folks that are out there on the roads, be extra careful, especially in those school zones with our young ones traveling the sidewalks, traveling the sides of the roads. Be extra cautious and really pay attention to the youngsters making their way to the different schools throughout the City of Port Colborne and, of course, throughout the entire region of Niagara. Members, I will now entertain a motion to go into closed session so that Council can proceed in camera in order to address the following matters, those including the minutes of the closed session portion of August 13th, 2012 special council meeting and the August 20th, 2012 special meeting of council, as well as confidential verbal report from the General Manager and Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Marketing concerning the potential sale of city-owned land pursuant to Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition of or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. And finally, members of council, confidential memorandum from the Chief Administrative Officer dated August 27th, 2012, concerning matters related to the Overholt Cemetery pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Members, mover and seconder, please, to go into closed session. No, no. Councillor Desmarais, seconded by Councillor Danch. All those in favor? It was like trying to feed a kid that, that piece of broccoli. No. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Have a wonderful week and the rest of a wonderful summer and enjoy your Labor Day weekend. We're now in closed session.